And I gotta tell you, I do admire your artwork.
Thank you so much.
We'll put a link to your website. Hopefully, people will go through your website, take a look at that, and it's just there's a lot of the artwork that just screams out at you.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, tell me a little bit about your childhood. I know you started as an artist very, very young.
Yes, I started, I would say, about, I guess my earliest work that I still have a little bit of a copy of was like 3 years old. And it was a pretty complex drawing because I was able to achieve reflection. The first drawing I ever did was a drawing of my pet rabbits as a kid. And looking back at that picture was interesting because I could achieve reflection as I had the rabbit looking into a mirror in the drawing, and I was able to achieve
Really?
reflection. Yes. And after about a while, I kind of considered it as a hobby. I was about maybe in 5th or 6th grade where I struggled with a lot of bullying. It was pretty aggressive. I would have kids harm me at school, and we're talking about like 5th or 6th grade. I would have kids on a weekly basis put notes into my note bag telling me to go kill myself, and this was also back during a time where bullying wasn't as...
It wasn't addressed as much.
it wasn't
Yeah.
addressed as much at all.
It was accepted, tolerated, unfortunately.
People thought it was just kids playing around,
Yeah.
but, when you think about when kids telling other kids to go kill themselves, pretty aggressive.
Well, what does it tell you about the people that write such notes? That's an awful thing. And what are
Yeah.
they going through as well?
Yeah,
And then they're just passing that pain on to you.
yeah.
So, but from when you were 3 years old, so you already had artistic skills. So this is something that you've always had.
Yes. My father was, is still an architect. And actually, my last name, from what I've been told, means craftsman in Italian. So we have a long line of creative people in my family on my father's side.
Okay. And the piece that you did when you were 3 years old, do you have any recollection of how you were emotionally back then? Because you mentioned the bullying started around 5, when you were 5 years old.
Yes.
So was anything happening before that, between 3 and 5?
There was, my mother struggled with addiction even before I was born. And
Okay.
which also with mental disorders as well. And she's been recently diagnosed with something that she's always had, but now she's finally seeking help for it, is that she has
That's commendable.
multiple personality disorder and other different types of mental disorders as well. I didn't really notice it as a child because when you're a child, you assume that's normal,
Yeah, of
what
course.
happens in your home.
Of course.
And I was very, more of an introverted child always. I always was drawing, kind of being in my own world, and now being at the age of 27, realized that I was definitely trying to create my own type of environment for traumatic reasons.
Right.
My mother would, she would be a normal mother one day, and the next day she would she would accuse people of trying to go after her. It wasn't true. She would make up kind of like these stories. She was going through maybe a manic episode. So you never knew what was going to happen.
I feel that's very difficult for a child because it's very destabilizing. Because when you're a child, especially at 3 or 5, you want structure in your life. You want consistency. You want your parents to be supportive and stable.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like that was really, really a difficult situation for you.
It was difficult, and it was even difficult before I was born, too, as she still had her addiction issues while she was pregnant with me. And also, my father's ex-wife's family was very jealous of my mother at the time and tried to actually attack her while she was pregnant with me.
Oh, that's horrible.
And so it was kind of always a bit of a tough start even before
you were born. Was your mother in a difficult situation herself when she was a young girl?
She was also a victim of abuse. Her father was an immigrant from Russia, and even him as a child was abused by his own family members and also experienced traumatic experiences. My mother's father lived in tenements, and those kind of conditions can really have an effect on your mind, as well as his father, my great-grandfather, was murdered in a bar, and so he lived without his father, and I'm sure those aggressive tendencies stuck with him, and he was very aggressive towards my mother.
And it just gets passed down from generation to generation.
Yes.
It sounds like you're doing everything you can to stop that.
Yes.
Sounds like you have an insight that, well, maybe we can't totally blame them if they're, back then there wasn't the an understanding of mental health or the desire to help people. I don't know the situation. But it does seem like you are making a great effort to struggle and find yourself. I mean, a piece like this tells you a lot, and pieces that I saw on your website. It sounds like you're really going through some internal searching.
Yes.
Is that what your artist represents?
Yes, it's a searching, but it's also an expression, because there are so many people out there who are going through similar things as me, if not more. It's actually one of the reasons why I decided to become a teacher, an educator. For public schools and colleges and universities, because I feel that these types of situations are very prevalent, and anything I can do to maybe help those younger individuals who are going through similar situations, how to cope with what they're going through, I think will make a more healthier generation.
That's admirable, because there's another 5-year-old out there. You were being bullied at 5. There's another 5-year-old right now who's being bullied.
Yes.
And
I've had many experiences where my students come from homeless families. Some students who are in the custody of their cousins. They don't even have a mother, father, grandfather, grandmother. And you could only imagine how unstable that
Sure.
can be. And, I really cherish any kind of person I could come into contact with that I can give advice and help for their future needs.
yeah, I would assume your being a teacher gives you that opportunity. You probably interact a lot with the parents, as you said, and cousins, I guess, who are the ones that have responsibility for some of your students.
Yes.
And the students themselves who maybe come to you.
Yes.
Do you openly discuss this with them, or are they aware of your situation and what you went through?
It depends on the situation. If I have a student who is struggling with maybe a parent of addiction, I would express my similar roots of having a mother who comes from addiction and how I was able to deal with that.
Right.
And that usually helps them feel more like they're in a safer environment, because now they're interacting with people who come from similar environments. And that's usually how I can have a breakthrough with some certain students who are very confused and do not know what to do, because you don't really know what you're doing in like a secondary level of age, like being in like 9th through 12th grade,
Sure. Well, did anybody help you when you were 5 and then this was happening to you?
I didn't have much of any help at all. I come from a generation where those types of behaviors weren't as responded to as they are now.
Right.
Now in public schools we have DASA officers, which are teams that are required to help students who may be bullied by other children or going through some type of situations at home. I didn't have any of that, so I kind of took care of myself and ventured in different ways to seek help for those kinds of situations.
Well, you're 27, so you're 20 for the last 22 years.
Yes.
You've been doing this on your own, or you've been seeking help on your own?
For the most part, I've been seeking help on my own. Now that I'm older and now that I have been more outspoken, especially with the artwork that I do, it's got my family involved as well, and to kind of take a look from a certain perspective of how things were and to try and heal and build back bridges between
Right.
those types of situations that happen.
And your mother is working towards correcting herself and improving?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yes.
And what about your father?
My father, he's been very supportive. He's been very helpful. He's struggling with his own emotions about it because he didn't really see it happening. He thought that it was something that may just kind of outgrow at a certain point.
Yeah.
And also, and I don't blame him, he didn't know how to deal with it as well.
Yeah, that's understandable. I think that's why people have to seek out a professional therapist. The problem is finding a good therapist, finding someone that you really connect with and that can help you.
Mm-hmm.
And also the time, right? It can take years.
Oh, yes.
Years and years of therapy to understand yourself and to open up those wounds, I guess, and deal with those.
That's the thing. People are afraid to open those wounds. They think that it's not going to help what they're going through. I think from my own personal experiences, you have to kind of dive right into it and to really start the healing process.
Yeah, this is scary. It's very scary. I guess people are very scared and also set in their ways, or maybe not even aware of their own behavior and how it's affecting other people.
Yes, of course. It's a very scary thing. It's a very difficult thing. You know, a lot of people look away from it, and, it's like how they say you should try to face your fears. It really does help.
It's easier to ignore them. Right?
Much
It's easier
easier.
to make believe nothing's wrong or the problem is the other person.
Oh, of course. It's very prevalent in the society to look the other way. So
Yeah.
much so that they make movies about it.
Yeah, that's true.
So.
It's very difficult to look within. It's very difficult, but maybe. Well, how did your mother do it? How did your mother get to realize that she needed help? What drove her to that?
She had hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
She was in situations where she almost ended her own life and possibly someone else's. She got herself so drunk that she drove drunk. She drove all the way back home. She crashed the car in the driveway, and she fell out of the car and hit her head on the concrete. And I found her like that.
Wow.
And that's kind of where it all started. And it kind of really, it's terrible that it has to happen like that for something to get better.
Yeah, I guess it's commendable that she's doing something about it now.
Yeah.
But yes, for other people, it'd be good if they don't have to hit rock bottom or risk somebody else's lives or their own lives.
It's hard to tell someone when they are an adult and, legally make decisions for themselves.
Yeah. You have to be open-minded to be in therapy, to accept the fact that you might need help, or maybe know that something's wrong, even if you don't know what's wrong.
Yeah.
To seek some sort of help at least, and to maybe be open-minded to feedback from friends, relatives,
Mm-hmm.
just to say, maybe you do need help.
Yeah.
And even if you're not fully in agreement as to what that help is, maybe use that motivation to at least say, look, I'm open to at least discussing. Right? Because that would help the parents of some of your students.
Yeah.
Right?
It's hard, and I've experienced not just people in their, my mom's in her 50s. I've also experienced parents who have children over the age of 18 who are going through some type of addiction, and they can't do anything because they need to say themselves that they need help. They can't have somebody just take them somewhere.
Right.
And it's hard because it's like with my mother, you're just waiting for something really terrible to happen until you can legally tell that they need to get help.
Yeah.
So.
Do you have siblings?
Yes.
When,
I have 2 sisters.
younger or older?
I have a younger sister and I have an older half-sister.
And how were they affected?
They're affected differently because my half-sister is from my father's previous marriage.
Okay.
So she was not in the same home.
Right.
My younger sister, she definitely had a better experience because then again, she's from a different generation. So she was able to get the help with different types of New York State services and things such as that. She had some state counseling that came and worked with her, and so she's definitely on a better level than I was at that age.
Is it helping her?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You say then you were at her age. I think it's commendable what you've done. To have started as a child, being bullied at 5, and it sounds like a long time, the fact that you're 27 years old now. But a lot of people don't get past these things until much, much later in life, or don't even want to deal with them, or just they're afraid to deal with those things that happened in their past. But it seems commendable to me that you actually did it. You're struggling to express yourself, and you found an outlet with your artwork.
Yes. The artwork was in development for, I would say I didn't really get serious into it, into the emotional aspect of it. I always did drawing and painting, but actually making it about myself and my life really didn't start until the age of like 20, 21. Kind of going back in time a little bit, I was a victim of an older gentleman when I was about 15 years old. Coming from a home where mother was abusive and unstable home life, any child at that age going through that situation wants to find some stability. And I was taken advantage of by an older individual who would say that he was the answer to all my problems. Come stay with me. You don't have to live in this craziness anymore. Like, I'm pretty much a godsend. And, being at that young age,
He manipulated you.
Oh, definitely. Groomed me, manipulated me, like all that kind of terms that you would expect from that situation. It's textbook. And it churned into, okay, this is probably great, to, oh my God, he is controlling, he's abusive. It started with the controlling. He didn't want other people to see me. He didn't want me to go out with friends. There was a time period where I didn't see my close friends, for about a couple of years, because he would get very upset. If I went out, I had to ask for permission. He would tell me to dress a certain way, to be a certain way, to act a certain way, and if I didn't do it, there would be issues. It started with verbal abuse to went from them pushing to one time he almost knocked me out in the back of the head.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was going through college courses at this time too. Our relationship lasted for about 7 or 8 years. And I was 15, he was 25. And when I was going into my college courses, I went for art. And there was a time where I wanted to experiment with painting and drawing my own portrait, which all my work is. And I remember this one time when I was drawing my face, he said to me, I want you to throw that away. No one else deserves to see you but me. And that was a turning point for me because I was older. I was starting to understand that this isn't right. This is not a situation that I'm supposed to be in. This is the situation I see people go through on TV
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. Somebody else. It's happening to somebody else.
Yes.
Not to you.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And thankfully, I got out of that situation. It was definitely a miracle because I think once I started getting into my 20s, he was starting to realize that I was growing up and that I was realizing that this isn't right. He's a predator.
Yeah.
And literally one day he just disappeared into a different state.
Well, that's good for you.
Yes.
Well, that's a wonderful thing that it
Yes.
happened that way.
Yes.
I thought you were going to tell me that you left him and it was a struggle and a fight, and so that's very good that he left on his own.
Yes. He was
'Cause
definitely
he's-
running away from what he did.
Yeah. Well, he obviously had a lot of emotional and mental problems
Oh,
himself.
incredibly. I mean, that's something that not a normal person does.
No. It does sound to me like incredible that you went through it with your parents and now you're going through it again. And again, you get yourself out of it. Again, you struggle to go through your feelings and understand yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And just the way you explained the fact that you realized that it wasn't right what he was doing and it was coming to light in your mind how inappropriate it was. But you did it in your 20s.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And a lot of people, that doesn't happen to everybody.
No.
And I'm pretty happy that it happened the way that it did. And from him saying that I was the only person, that myself was only meant for him only and no one else is the reason why I posterize myself in all my artwork.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that he didn't want a drawing of you to be seen by someone else.
Yes.
Yeah, so that drove you to do the opposite. And that drove you into yourself and you'd focus your art on yourself.
Yes. There's nobody who can own me. There's no ownership of
Fantastic story. Fantastic. Fantastic ownership of your own life and your body and your emotions and your control. And a fantastic opportunity for you to dig deep into yourself to try to understand yourself.
people. Yes.
I admire that. It's really incredible.
Thank you. I just hope that whoever's listening to this, who's going through something similar, could understand that there can be ways out, that you can help yourself. It doesn't have to be with art. It could be with any other sort of resources that can help you, any other types of facilities out there that could help you.
Yeah, Candice and I were talking earlier about people that know, because she had art. But so if you don't have art, you may feel, well, I don't have art. But you do have, and maybe she can address that. You have other ways of seeking help.
I've had a lot of people come up to me and say, I'm going through something similar too, but there's a difference between us. You have art. I don't have anything that can help me cope with what I'm going through. And I would discuss with them that everybody has something. It doesn't have to be art related. You could find some sort of therapeutic meditation with cooking, or something as simple as taking a walk, talking with somebody. Everybody has something. It's not a privilege. Everybody was born with something, and you just have to take the time to find that in yourself.
Yeah, and fortunately, society is a little more accepting now of mental problems and people dealing with emotional issues. Maybe that makes it a little bit easier, but I can understand that other people may still feel that it's this scary thing to do. But they can seek therapy, cognitive therapy. They can do writing.
Yes.
They can find other ways to start to address their issues, and maybe realize that it's not going to get fixed in 1 or 2 weeks, days, months. It's going to take a long time.
Definitely not. From my experience, I would say it took about a good 5 years for me to realize that I was the victim of a predator, and that, because you always think that it's not going to happen to you.
Right.
You kind of get that mindset where you try to kind of sugarcoat. It's natural to sugarcoat trauma. That's
Right.
something that your brain naturally does.
Sure.
But I would have to say that, yes, the world is more accepting of mental and people of trauma coming from traumatizing situations. But the difference is that it has started in the younger generations. You can get help very right away with any type of situations you're going through. But there's a lot of people in my age, in my generation, that already went through a lot of troubling experiences, but are only seeking help now versus the new generation where they're seeking help right at the beginning.
Earlier, yes.
And there's a lot of time that they have to work these things out. So,
But it's still better, even
not
if you're in your
happening
20s and you start seeking help then, and it maybe goes into your 30s. You still got a large part of your life ahead of you, and you can still live a much better life.
now. Of course, I completely agree. It's gonna
Yeah.
you can seek help now, and it's gonna take you probably into your 30s or 50s or however long it takes you to recover from those situations. Everybody's different.
I guess one of the things is to get past the shame of blaming yourself, to seek help, to realize it's not your fault. I mean, it wasn't your fault your mother was like that. It wasn't your fault that this guy, older guy, tried to take advantage, manipulate you, control you. And maybe people that are going through something else that's happening in their lives, and maybe they feel shameful that they let it happen, or shameful that nobody knows about it, or shameful that it's totally affecting their lives and they're depressed or whatever else is happening in their lives. But there is really no reason to feel shameful because it's something that happened to them.
Exactly. A lot of people feel guilt for what happened to them, and most of the time, it's a false guilt. It's a false guilt, and my best advice would be that you need to face your fears again and really dig deep inside yourself and try to look at yourself from a different perspective and analyze yourself. Because the best way to start with recovering is to understand yourself. And that's why a lot of people have a hard time, is because they're not starting with themselves. They're starting after the first step.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, so they're skipping the first step,
Mm-hmm.
which is to look within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe see that they could be a whole different person over time, taking very tiny little steps, I'm assuming, towards making corrections or understanding yourself, but that there is an actual opportunity to enter a new world, a new reality, and that the world doesn't have to be the way you live it right now. It could be a totally different experience.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of lost my train of thought here.
We were talking about the first. Well, one of the things is what you're saying and what you're talking about, people looking within themselves, will break that cycle, because in your mother's case, you mentioned she had difficulties with, so it's a multi-generational thing, so it just goes on generation after generation, right? So people now can maybe understand that this is something that's happening because of something that happened maybe 50 years ago, 70 years ago, 100 years ago, and it's still repeating itself throughout your life, and that they can't break the cycle, or else they're just going to be doing the same thing to their own family.
Yes. If you ever feel that you are part of a chain of abusive behavior, or being a victim of some type of behavior, if you feel that that is part of your life whatsoever, I would suggest looking again at yourself from a different perspective. Identify, are you just another link in this chain? And if so, you need to be the one to stop that. Or else it could be however many generations long for it to stop. You do not want to be the abuser. You want to be the solution.
Also, the person that's suffering,
Yes.
You don't want to be suffering and
Yes.
get accustomed to suffering.
Yes. Not at all. You have one life, and you should be able to enjoy it.
And enjoy it your way, right? Not that you had somebody that was controlling you and telling you how you had to be.
Yes.
And there are a lot of people who are like that.
Oh, there's tons of people that are in that situation. Right. I meet people constantly. It's very rampant, those types of situations where you're being controlled by someone.
Yeah.
Don't let someone else control you. You need to take hold of your own life, and you need to do what you want to do.
Yeah, I think that's very important. Even in jobs, sometimes you meet there are bosses who are controlling, and they want things their way and only their way, and maybe that's not the right job to have. And if you have a personality that leans towards obeying somebody else, maybe you need to give that some thought and find a way to really live life your way. Which may take, again, I think it's important to repeat that it could take, you said 5 years, and so you're not going to get it done overnight, but you do need to take step one, because those 5 years are going to go by either way, right? They're going to go by either with you suffering and doing nothing, or with you suffering and slowly getting yourself out of that situation.
Life's a journey, and it could take you a short amount of time to achieve something. It could take you a longer amount of time. If you find yourself unhappy and truly unhappy with something, you should take the time in your life. You got so many years, there's so many years in a human life. Try to take that time and try to find something that you really enjoy doing, and try to find the environment that you're looking for. Because you don't want to live all these years of your life, be on your deathbed and regret. I've heard a lot of people, I've met a lot of older people who are, in hospice or assisted living, and a lot of the things that they would talk about is that I have regrets. I wish I, listened to myself more, or I wish I didn't judge myself against other people. I really wish that I took the time and took my conscious thoughts more seriously.
Yeah, be yourself, not let society dictate who you should be or how you should act.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're not harming other people, as long as you are not indifferent towards the suffering of others, it's okay to express yourself and grow over time, because we do all grow. I think that's something we all forget. You're not the same person when you're a teen, when you're in your 20s. You grow. You're constantly growing and changing. You're not fixed, and our mindset is not fixed. We could change. We could learn to grow. We could learn to appreciate and love, or maybe be less anxious, or to be less accepting to suffering situations and difficult situations.
Mm-hmm.
And that can change your next generation. It can change. You can also change your friends, the environment that you're in.
Yes.
Did you have that problem? Were your friends in any way abusive as well to you?
I had some who weren't the best friends to have, that they were toxic, but I would say that most of my friends are friends that have come from similar situations. That's how we bonded as friends. Yeah. And still to this day, we talk about our lives or past experiences that we still need help getting over with, and we help each other out constantly.
I think that's a great thing about your generation. I think the fact that social media partly the reason people can communicate back and forth so easily, but it does seem like your generation has that ability to interact and be more open about their emotions and feelings.
Oh, yes.
And I really admire that. I think it's a wonderful thing. You don't live a life in hiding or with a false mask of who you are.
Yeah, social media is, people, that is a good point with social media. Everybody's just constantly exposing, who they are and what they're doing, and I think that really helps too, because now you can have, online groups, especially if you're someone who is struggling with something and maybe you're not in the best financial place. You could go and join chat groups
right.
for free and
mm-hmm.
discuss these types of topics with other people who are going through the same thing, and it gives really good resources for people out there.
Yeah, there's a way out.
Mhm.
There's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Do you have friends that are artists? And do they have similar situations?
Yeah, I have tons of friends who are artists, and they paint and they draw and they sculpt for the same reasons. I have a friend who had mother issues as well, mother with a mental disorder, and all of her artwork is watercolor, and it has like a lot of really nice expression to it, very explosive. I have another male friend who had some other parental issues, some religious issues, and expresses that and has these very like wild pen and ink style artworks. And I have to say, you know, artists, they're painting and drawing for a reason. They're sculpting for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
They're letting something out. Something's driving them to do that.
Right.
So usually you find a lot of artists with the same backgrounds.
Yeah, it does seem like there's that connection. And fortunately, they have the artistic capability to get it out. And it totally affects the way they paint. Because I noticed in your case, you had some work that I never saw before, which was x-rays. And it gave me the impression of that you were seeing something deep within someone. I don't know what drove you to paint in that manner.
So I do have a collection of x-rays and a medical type of collection that you can see on my website. When I was in my first year of college, amongst all the other things going on, I suffered from just a very sudden seizure disorder that happened. And it was a very interesting experience for me because you're experiencing your body doing something that you have no control of. And it's a very scary thing, especially anybody who goes through seizures knows what I'm talking about. You get like this weird feeling of course, your body's out of control, but your subconscious is like unaffected. So it's like you could still have these thoughts, but your body is just
It's like
convulsing out of
it's
control.
like you're split, you're separated.
It's like you're it's like you're separated between like your soul and your body. And it's a very sort of almost spiritual type of experience. And like any other things that happened in my life that gave me a reason to experiment with a whole different type of collection of x-rays and trying to understand how my own body and my mind works. You know, how can my mind just go from control to out of control? How could it make my body move a certain way? How could it be triggered by certain things going on in my body? And so that whole collection is just like sort of like a scholarly type of focus on that subject.
Some of the artwork that really you had there's a piece of art that you have where you painted the ribs, the skeleton system. You can see a skeletal system.
Yes.
You can see the ribs. You can see, I think it was a bone. And it looks so much like an x-ray. And it's amazing. How did you even learn to do that?
So it was an interesting type of process. I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with me about it. But I understood, you know, because actually when I was getting my x-rays done, I actually had kind of little side conversations with the doctors and the radiologist asking about how these certain technologies work and how does the layering of looking through the body work. And I took the information that these doctors told me, and I actually asked for copies of my own x-rays. So I've got CDs of different images of myself. And I studied them. These were acrylic works, so these are acrylic paints. They're not oil paints like this one is oil paint. I would coat the whole canvas black, and I would use nothing but white acrylic paint with a mixture of my own saliva. As
Really?
strange as that sounds. Because for some reason, it just loosens up the white paint so much so that that it makes it so translucent more than water could. Because water can make paint, of course, translucent, but it could also kind of puddle it, and it's not really even. But for some reason, like my saliva, that whole painting was made with my fingers, by the way. That was all finger painted.
All that detail?
Yeah. It was just me constantly
Your road,
rubbing.
did you have something in your finger, or you just use your skin?
I just used my skin. Like,
that is
literally
amazing.
Just doing that with it, constantly rubbing it and keeping it even, and it gave this blue glow to it, which water wouldn't do. So there was some type of chemical reaction going on as well, and it was really a nice experience to paint, not just the outside of myself, but my internal body.
Yeah, that's what I keep noticing with you, this pattern of digging in deeper, going in deeper, finding more about yourself, trying to dig into your emotions, not afraid of them.
Mm-hmm.
You seem to do that quite well, and from a very early age, which I think is some big credit to you that you were able to do that,
Mm-hmm.
and to go through that pain. You must have at some point had some scary moments.
It's definitely hasn't been easy.
Yeah.
Always been some sort of situations that go on, but I take that negative energy and I use it to produce positive products, such as paintings and sculptures and things like that. I mean, the outcome may not look necessarily positive, but I was able to turn something that is just so kind of vile and give it this sort of different perspective that makes it attractive.
You seem to take the power and take it so that you have the power. Instead of it having the power of the emotions, you take control, and by you painting it, you're expressing it, and you are putting it on the face, and you seem to bring it out.
Exactly, and that's something that anyone who feels like that they're out of control should try to do. I think it would be a really good strategy to try to find a way to take control back, take the control back, and use it as a fuel to create a positive outcome for yourself.
Yeah, you seem to take the emotions out from within, and you seem to splatter them into your own face. That's the impression I get. It's like you bring it out. You don't want that to be choking you from inside.
Well, it's going back to what we spoke about, how facing your fears and really digging deep inside yourself to really give yourself the material to take back control and do something with it. There
was a painting that I saw of you that really was impactful to me. The instant I saw it, that is the small blue bird with your face on it.
Yes.
That is, I thought it said so much. The tiny legs, it looked like a baby. To me, the first impression I got was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
But your face has a lot of emotion. And you're not supposed to see a bird laying on its back on the ground. Birds are supposed to be flying.
Yes.
So it just told me so much, and I saw so much emotion in there. And your face on a big face, tiny little bird, tiny little legs, not able to fly because it's upside down. Tell me more about that specific painting.
So that specific painting is part of the first collection of works that came out as soon as I got out of the predatorial situation.
Oh.
And I call it a collection because you'll know the collection that it's from because they are all made in this kind of beige background. It's a little bit out of focus.
Yeah,
it's
I saw
not
some of those.
Entirely crisp.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is a reflection of me trying to start to discover myself, and that's why it's sort of out of focus, all those paintings. The one that you're talking about in particular, I titled a Gurada, which is I'm a Buddhist, and that's it's a mythical type of bird that is supposed to be the all powerful type of representation of energy and things such as that. The bird was a symbol of me being in that predatory situation where I'm a bird, I'm just trying to fly, I'm just trying to take control, trying to live my life, like how you would see birds. They can kind of just do whatever they want. Whenever there's a bad situation, they can just fly away from it. And when you look closely, you'll notice that the bird is on its back, and it has a chain that's nailed into its chest,
Yeah.
and it's connected to a ball and chain that's keeping it from flying away. So you have this bird that was born to fly, that was born to be free, but it's being held back by something that someone else did. And it's a bit maniacal because it has my portrait. It's the body of a bird with my head on it. And the head is laughing because it's just such it's such an amusing situation that being born to do something and you're not able to do it.
I didn't interpret the head as laughing. That's interesting that you say that. I didn't see it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it as crying.
Mm.
I saw it like a baby. That's why the first thing that came to me was a baby, because this is a small body, and then, so you painted it as laughing.
Yes.
I interpreted it differently.
Anyone can interpret it however they want, and I encourage people to interpret it however they want, because yes, this is the way that I wanted to paint it, but it could also be open to interpretation.
Well, I think it's because you don't paint the face as a normal face. You have a way of painting a face which is not necessarily your face exactly as your face. You seem to bring all the emotions out, and you put it on the cheeks and the eyes and everything.
They're very deformed.
Yeah, they are deformed, and that's probably. And I almost felt crying. I almost felt pain. That's what I felt, and I think it's because when you see someone laughing, you would see kind of joy in their face. But because there's a deformed face, I didn't get that. I didn't see that joy coming out. Mm-hmm. I saw pain, and I saw agony. I did see suffering, and I think that's because of your style. Like, it's similar to what that face is somewhat similar to this, but it's not exactly like this. But this is the way a lot of your work is, right? It's a distortion of the face.
Heavily distorted. A lot of people get very surprised when I say all the artwork is about me, and they'll be like, "Oh, that doesn't look like you." And I'll be like, "Well, it's how I feel that I look."
It's how you feel, yeah.
It's like if you took my emotions and manifested into a physical form. This is what it would look like. So, I always leave my paintings open to interpretation, and the deformity helps with that, because I know I don't want to stick to one complete subject. I want to keep it a broad subject so that other people can relate to it too.
Well, I think the deformity is fantastic, because otherwise you just see another face, which you see in a lot of art. Mm-hmm. But this is a face that tells you a story. This is a face that has all the emotions are outside, not inside, or they're coming out.
Yes. Which the mouth represents of an internal and an external type of perspective. This one is brand new. This is the one that took about a year to make. I just finished it. And it's called Consumption, which you could tell right away that has to do with something like that. I painted it in sort of a way that you feel like that you're getting pulled into it, that you're getting sucked in. And it's a representation of emotions that I was going through last year when I was seeking a lot of therapy from a really good social worker who was able to take no nonsense and was telling me, you need to again, face your fears. You need to understand that this is what happened to you, and that's how you are going to start feeling better. And it kind of put me into this anxiety, this year of a lot of emotions, because I came to the realization that, I was a victim of this and I was a victim of that. And it was a lot of pressure. And so I kept thinking inside my head, and then this is how I go with all paintings. When I am going through something, I see it in my head what I represent the image as. And for this one in particular, I was constantly thinking about consumption and digestion and trying to devour those emotions and all those bad people in my life, and just to kind of devour it, digest it, and then it just all goes away.
It's interesting because there is the start of a body at the bottom, but it almost also seems like just the head is floating, possibly because of the triangle that it's within.
Yes.
And then you have this other, it seems like multi-dimensional. It seems like almost the whole thing is floating, and maybe it's traveled. I don't know what you were trying to paint there.
So this is part of a new collection that I'm working on, and you can tell that it's a collection because I do these pieces of gray portraits of myself. So we're kind of stepping away from natural color and getting more into a symbolic color. And so my portraits are completely washed out gray with a little bit of reflected hues from the background. And I never really exactly know what I'm trying to express until I've made a couple of pieces within the new collection. This is like the fourth or fifth one for this collection. And so I have this portrait of myself because I feel like I stand out from the rest of the world. And these geometric shapes that are going in all sort of different directions, it feels very stimulating with all the different colors, is how I represent society. And I feel very different from that, and trying to kind of fit within this society because all these shapes are kind of digging in to the face, like things are being squeezed, things are being compressed.
Oh, now I see it. I see it now that you've explained it to me. Sure. Because this triangle is actually going right into your neck.
Yes.
Yeah. And your head is tightly squeezed in there. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming you're supposed to live within a frame, but you don't seem to want to do that.
Yes. And, there's all these sharp corners, too, and you kind of feel like, you're going to get pricked by an edge. It feels very, very anxious, a little bit of anxiety going on.
Why?
Trying to get through.
Why gray? Why do you paint yourself gray?
Gray because I feel like maybe some other people can relate to this, but I feel like society, and I feel like we kind of talked about it before too, that society wants to paint things always so positive,
rosy,
kind of like rose-colored glasses, that everything's fine, we're all doing great, and people really aren't doing great.
Correct.
And this gray would just represent that, this is what reality is. People feel different from the world around them. People feel that that they're not fitting in as well as people say that they are. So we just have a difference between an individual and society.
Tremendous meaning. You have a lot of meaning in this one painting.
Thank you.
Wonderful. It really is. And now that you've explained it to me, I can appreciate it even more. And the grayness totally makes sense. I like that reflection of the green there, because it gives me a sense that there's more coming, there's more ahead, that's reflecting from somewhere above.
Exactly. My favorite thing to do is to play with three-dimensionality. I'm very well known for making my 2D paintings look as three-dimensional as possible, and I really like that challenge
Yeah, I get. That's why I said traveling. I get the impression like you've traveled. I see multiple dimensions. You started way back there. You've now moved forward, and now that you've explained to me the triangle, it totally makes sense with the struggle with society.
Mm-hmm.
Now you do have another piece that you brought. Maybe we can talk about that one next.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. All right. So tell me more about this particular painting.
So this painting was the first of the geometric background, gray figure, very contrasting, colorful backgrounds. It's what started the new collection. I was going for more of a body acceptance piece, and originally it was just supposed to be just an image of myself in realistic color. And if you look at my Instagram, you actually will see a picture of it painted with actual skin tone.
I did see it.
Yeah. And then I made a last minute decision to make it very monochrome with just grays with a little bit of highlights of color in there. And I was just testing out this new idea of expressing my image. And so I kind of had this therapeutic session with my body as well, because my body's been a target for certain things. And similar to how I say to face your fears and in situations that you're going through, I was purposely kind of throwing myself into some insecurities as well, and forcing myself to paint it and to understand it and to accept it.
Again, it goes back to you being very brave and facing your fears and your emotions.
Yes. Something that, again, people have a hard time doing, and I don't blame them. But again, you have one life to live. You have a limited amount of time on this earth. And I would suggest, if you have any types of insecurities or something that you feel that should just be brushed under the rug, don't do that. Take the time to analyze yourself, to look at yourself, to force yourself to look at your reflection and understand and find the acceptance for yourself. Because there's a reason why that you're here, and there's a reason why you look a certain way, and there's a reason why maybe you were going through some situations that you think to yourself, why would I would go through something like this? I'm a really good person. Why do I deserve these types of situations? And for me, I feel that these things that I went through was for me to help other people with it, to understand different types of struggles, victimization, to really go out and say to people, I'm not just a therapist who went to school and I was told to tell you these things. I'm here to tell you from what I experienced.
Very meaningful, very powerful, because it's coming from someone that lived it, is living it right now, and is suffering through it and finding a way out and struggling. So I think what you just said is extremely powerful and believable, because it's coming, like you said, not from a therapeutic point of view, but from your own life experience.
A lot of people are put in these types of jobs and they don't have much experience with these types of situations. They go to school and they look at videos of people's lives.
Therapists, you talk about therapists.
Yeah, therapists or social workers, anybody in that type of field. I'm not saying all of them do. I've met a good chunk of who wanted to become that because they suffered.
Right.
But I've been in situations where I tried to seek help, and I know a lot of other people had this situation as well, where they would try to seek help from someone whose job is to help you, but they just see you as a number. I remember I went to one of my first places that I went to seek help. It was literally a line of people. It looked like a factory. They just bring you into a room. They talk to you. with a very monotone voice. They treat you like some type of test. You know, they make you check boxes off of a paper, and if you checked 3 out of 20 boxes, then you get sent to this
where you
room.
fit. It's like a template. See where you fit.
It was a template. There was no human emotion to it. It was just, you're A, so you belong to B. Oh, you're B, so you belong to C.
And yet we're so complex. That's a good point that you mentioned, because people that are seeking therapists and things aren't working out should not blame themselves. Maybe it's just not the right fit. It's not the right therapist. And maybe they shouldn't give up after a first or second or third or fourth therapist. It's until you find a therapist that really understands you and that really cares and that is sincere about trying to help you.
I probably found the right person after like the 6th try.
6th. Yeah. That's a good thing for people to hear. You went through all that, and that you didn't give up in those 6 tries. Because it's so open, it makes it so easy to say, I tried twice, I tried 3 times. That's it, I'm giving up.
And sometimes it hurts people even more, because they
it makes it
feel
worse.
that people don't understand them.
Yeah, now it looks like I can't even fix the situation. I'm trapped.
It leaves a bad taste in their mouth. And
Yeah.
sometimes they don't even want to try again.
Yeah.
But try as many times as you can, and you will find that person. There is someone out there who really wants to be there to help you and not just to collect a paycheck.
And be patient, right? Once you find the right therapist, don't blame yourself or don't be angry at yourself if you don't see that you're improving. Take time. It does. We want to repeat that you said before. It took you 5 years, and it could take longer for some people.
It could, but try to live your life trying to do the right thing for yourself.
Yeah, it's really important. I love the gray concept. Now that you've explained it to me, of how the gray represents what real life is instead of this rosy approach towards life. It's wonderful. Do you do this from a photograph, or are you looking in a mirror? How do you see yourself?
All of my artwork that has my portrait of it, which is mostly all of it, is from pictures that I take of myself. So there's really no fancy gimmick to it. I just take pictures. I don't just take pictures just whenever I feel like it. I need to be in that state of mind that I'm trying to capture in order to make the painting relevant.
What words do people use to describe your artwork? Because to me, there's a number of words that come up like that. I feel it instantly. How do people describe your artwork to you?
Disturbing. A lot of people are very disturbed by it. I would say that there's a small percentage of people who really understand it, but a large percentage of people who really don't think that this is something that needs to be hung up. As surprised as that sounds,
Oh, no.
I've actually had people take these paintings down off of gallery walls because they think it's too disturbing. That
It's too
not-
raw.
Yeah, it's too raw. But I actually take that as a compliment,
Absolutely.
because obviously this piece really,
You hit a nerve.
yeah,
It actually makes it an impact is the first thing I felt. I felt an impact. I felt emotions. Even before I knew your story, I felt emotions through your artwork. I felt emotions, and I know I'm repeating myself, but it's on the outside of your body. You're putting it on the outside, and you're putting it on your skin, and all the emotions are there, and the distortions on your face tell a lot. It's like all the feelings that were in are now out, and they're all there. It's fantastic.
but also in a way it's like a social experiment.
Oh,
It
that's a
really-
good point.
It really reflects.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes.
You know, it's like if you have a clothing company and all your models are what people think
Yes,
models
yes.
should be.
Yeah.
You switch them out to a plus size model or a model that is more realistic to the human society, and
Right.
people want to take that down. They feel very intimidated by it.
Yeah, and you're actually, on top of that, you're adding emotion and you're making it raw, and it must take people, and it's like a hit in the head. It's like, oh, this is too much.
Yes.
I can't handle that. Yeah, I'm attracted to it. I find it to be wonderful to be able to bring out emotions and to bring out feelings.
Yes.
And because it makes you grow.
It's really what people want to see.
Yeah.
It really is. But in some situations, we have people who are in control of hanging these types of pieces, who are part of that section of society that feel that everything just needs to be glazed over.
Yeah, glazed over. I wonder if maybe, to make it easier for those people, if maybe you need to make a smaller version that is not as impactful. It's the same message, but in a smaller version, like a postcard or something like that. I don't know. I have no idea. You're the artist. But maybe so that they kind of get a hint that, hey, there's something here, because it is impactful. To me, it was impactful even just looking at your website. It was impactful. And I'm comfortable with it. So, but I can understand that someone that isn't comfortable with it may totally want to block it out.
It's very hard for me to make small pieces. And I've tried it, and a lot of the times I'll just put it on a bigger piece. Because the size for me matters a lot. Because it is a very powerful
Yeah, that's
thing.
how your
It's a
message
very
is. Oh, I
powerful
agree.
topic.
No, I agree. I was just
Yeah.
thinking about, I agree with the concept. I agree with the final product. I think this is excellent. And I think you need that size to express the emotion and what's feeling, the feeling, and for it to impact you. I do think that. I was just addressing what you said about most people turning their backs on it and not wanting to see it, take it off the wall. Maybe those people that don't want it on the wall, maybe they'll put it on a desk because it's a start. Because
Yes.
they're afraid,
Yes.
and it kind of it's a little tiny opening towards an emotion. And
It's
they-
like a gradual.
yeah, yeah, it might be. It might very well be an opportunity to start and face your emotions and your feelings. I like to hear what people say. Even what you said about the saliva. I wonder if anybody else has done that before. I'd like to see comments if other people have used saliva. How did you come up with that? Did you experiment or you knew that?
I just experimented with it. I felt that this is something about me and my body and an internal perspective. Why not use internal materials?
Again, you're going back to inside and bringing it out.
Yeah.
You keep doing that.
There have been a couple of artists that have done that. Not like saliva, a little bit more of like more raunchy type
Yeah.
of body fluids, but yeah, some people have done that before to really give more of that raw.
Yeah. The saliva concept and the fact that you use that for the x-rays, that ties in so well.
Yeah.
It ties in so well that the fact that saliva actually helped you create that x-ray look.
I know. It was it was work that I was working on in college, and even my professors were very taken back by it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, again, raw is one of the words that comes to mind with everything you do.
And it's kind of funny because I did make some smaller pieces of it to sell because that was more of like it didn't necessarily need to be on a big size. That wasn't part of the statement. And it was funny when people would take them and I'd be like, well, you're literally taking a piece of me home with you.
Yeah. Well, you could always, when you said you need them to be big, but you could always just make reproductions. Because right, you could just make a small image of it. Your original is going to still be the large piece, but maybe as a way to introduce it into other people.
Yes.
Or even to your students.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever matched your artwork with maybe what one of your students is going through in their personal lives?
Yes.
Really?
I've because I'm also a teacher at BOCES. I teach art classes to alternative high schools, and with alternative high schools, you definitely get some students who are going through some type of issues that they're going through, and they come to school at night because they work all day, and they have different types of responsibilities that most students may not have at that age. And I had a couple of students who weren't very privileged, and they were very hardworking. They had a very mature attitude. They just, when you're 16 or 17 years old, you don't really know what you want to do. You're still kind of thinking that out.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a student in particular who very mature for his age, very hardworking, and I showed him some of my pieces, and he questioned if he could do something with art as a career. And I showed him some of my pieces, and I showed him other types of fields that my family's associated with, like architecture and things like that. And he wanted to be an architect, and I taught him how to draw perspectively and how to enhance the abilities that he already had. And he's going now to college for architecture. And
fantastic.
I think he was like the first to ever
So you had a positive impact on that child's life.
Yeah.
And with again connected to your artwork.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. So since you're so interested in helping students, that seems to be a good opening for you to be able to share your artwork with them, maybe discuss it and see what's of interest to them, and maybe give them a picture of it or something for them to be able to relate to it and begin to understand their emotions.
I get students all the time that ask me for a drawing, and it's and I always kind of give them a quick little sketch of pieces that I've already done. I actually had a bunch of students last week who all wanted an autograph and a little sample of the pictures. So students are very open to these types of images.
Well, when you describe the pieces, it makes it even much more impactful, much more meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
Even though that when I first saw them, they meant a lot to me. Then when you describe them, it may add it to it. Do you have a description that when you talk to the students, when they see, do they need, because they may not be able to process that amount of emotion that you're expressing in a piece of art.
Mm-hmm.
So do you somehow put it in writing? How do they understand what you're trying to depict?
So I modify my artistic statement for the age group that I'm talking to. So I show this piece a lot to students, mostly in secondary, so that's like middle school and high school. And I'll tell them, I'll say, I'm had some struggles, and I'm sure you all had some sort of struggles going on, because especially with teenagers, there's a plethora of different types of situations they're going through, whether it's like sexuality and self-consciousness and things like that. So they're already very open to it. And so when I show them these pictures, and I'll tell them on a basic level, I went through a lot of struggles, a lot of different types of things. I'm sure a lot of things that you guys have gone through. I'll say that a lot. And I felt like making pictures of myself because I think it's okay to talk about these things and express these things that you're going through. And they absolutely love it.
Yeah. That's what I'm wondering. Can you put that in writing? Do you need to express yourself only in this way, or can you express yourself in writing?
I can express myself in writing, definitely. But it's the images need to coexist with that writing.
Oh, no, I agree. I just thinking that everything you just said to me, it seems to me very impactful to help a child.
Yes.
But they need somebody to describe it to them.
Yes.
They need words behind it.
Yes.
And just hearing it once and then that's it, they might need it in writing. They might need to have that from you in writing, because then they can carry that, and also to process that information. You may need to read that emotional description 10, 20, 30 times before it begins to make sense to you.
Yes.
And certain pieces of it begin to stand out.
Yes.
And you make connection with those.
I do every now and then. Sometimes, because I'm an educator at BOCES, I'm also a substitute at different types of school districts, or I'll do leave replacements. So it varies. I've been in districts where I would write little quotes and print them out, and I would tape them to the wall. So when kids are passing through the hallway, they'll see a quote saying, mistakes just mean that you're learning.
Right.
Or making a mistake is an opportunity to do something else, which is another type of popular quote I like to use. With my BOCES students, when we begin our classes, I always give them a list of instructions, like something that you would get when you start a class. But I always start with a quote, an inspiring quote that hopefully will stick with them and go out through the whole year so that they're able to graduate.
Now, I could be wrong about what I'm about to say because you're the artist and you're the one that knows. But that gives me the impression that you're fitting it into society.
Yes.
And you're pulling away from what you're really good at, and which is you don't see in society, and which is what those children need, is help with emotions and understanding themselves and digging deep in raw emotions. Mm-hmm. So I get the impression that the quote is, it's like you're settling, like you're not bringing you're not being your true self. Mm-hmm. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
I'm just trying to understand that, not being your true self.
Not being your true self, in that you're very much into emotions, and you are very good at, like, when you describe everything you describe to me, it takes just a few sentences. A quote isn't going to tell me the story behind this, and there's a lot of raw emotion behind it. There's a lot that I would be, if I got a quote, it wouldn't tell me who you really are,
yes,
why you drew it, your emotions, what you felt at that time, what you're trying to express. The story, what you said about the gray color of society, that's fantastic. And that alone is an impactful thing for a child to hear. Life is not rosy like you see it in the movies and TV. That's a false depiction of life, right?
Yes.
And those descriptions, I think if you had descriptions for all the pieces you've created, might help.
Yes.
Might help a lot of children.
I think it definitely will. And so far it has reached a couple, and I'm very happy to make a difference, and even if it's just one or two children, it's...
Well, you mentioned the child with the architectural the skills. That's fantastic.
Yes, because it's very easy for someone to go down the wrong direction.
Yeah,
it could take such little effort to put someone in the wrong direction.
Yeah,
so to try to take the time and just leave little bits of inspiration, or letting that person understand that they're not alone and that you can do this.
And to get to them before they build the wall.
Yes.
Right? Because before they block off their emotions. Right? Before they block off all their feelings. And since you're dealing with people, young children, and you get to them early, I think you're doing a wonderful thing to be able to teach them, hey, there's a crack in the wall. There's a window in this wall.
Yes.
There's a door in this wall.
It really could just take a few minutes. Can really change a lot for that child.
Yes.
I've definitely had a handful of situations where I just took the student aside that was having a meltdown or going through something, and just to have like a 3-minute talk with them really helps their day. And then I'll have the same student pass by me in the hall and would say hello to me more often than they would before. And to me, that tells me that I was able to reach out to that person and make them feel more comfortable. Yeah,
because they may not be getting that at home.
Yeah.
You may be the only source of emotional support. I admire that. You ever see yourself 10, 20 years from now painting? Well, actually, I don't want to say what I'm thinking. You tell me, where do you see yourself 20 years from now? How will your art evolve?
It will evolve based on what the future holds. That's a very tough question to ask because you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. No one has a crystal ball. But what I can say is that no matter what happens, I want to try to get closer to sending a message out to people and making them feel more comfortable. It may not necessarily completely fix what they're going through, but at least for them to not feel guilt and feel
Right.
that
Yeah.
they don't have a purpose.
Right.
Because I do the same thing. I'll go through maybe some forums and some online chat just to see, am I the only one that feels this way? And I'll see tons of people who say I feel exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And that alone just makes someone else feel more comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Feel not so like different.
What I was wondering, the reason I asked you that question, I was wondering if, because you seem to grow pretty fast. I mean, you seem to, in 20 years, you've struggled to understand yourself, you've dealt with your pain, and you've grown into it, and you've accepted it, and you seem to want to dig deeper. And I'm wondering if somewhere in there, 20 years from now, you're going to find expressions of laughter or less distortion, more joy and happiness, because you're not expressing that at this moment,
Mhm.
right? And I'm wondering if that's in your future 20 years from now.
You know, a lot of people have actually asked a very similar question. They say, like, when are you going to paint something?
Oh, no, I don't think you should do it now. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I'm totally in favor of what you're doing. I think it's a wonderful thing. I'm just wondering if you might change, like you've changed. You're not the same person you are now than you were when you were with that person that was taking advantage of you. You've grown.
Mm-hmm.
And I get the impression you grow pretty fast. You seem to be very capable of processing your emotions and your feelings and going through the rough waves to find yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if at some point you're going to find some glimpses of happiness and joy that you may want to paint.
Well, I guess my best answer for that at the moment is I don't think that's going to happen until I see a change in the general population.
Society.
Because I feel like I'm with this certain side of people who really need the attention and want to help represent that side of society. And until I see more of a difference and more empathy, more compassion towards...
One of the things that I really believe in is a humanitarian approach towards life. And I do think that we'll need to go out of our way to be helpful whenever we can and to be happy for somebody else's success, not to have envy, and to understand that people go through difficult times in their lives and just feel kindness towards other people. I think you can find that with the right circle of friends and so on. But getting most of society to be like that, I don't know. I don't know if that will happen. But I do think it's worth the attempt to try to find like-minded individuals who feel the same way and build your own small society or small version of that.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't need people in your life that are out to hurt you and people that are maybe putting you down or making your life more difficult.
Yeah, definitely. You don't need toxic people.
Yeah, toxic is the right word. Yeah, there's so many people that are toxic in so many different ways. You don't need that. You don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I truly admire that, and I encourage people to go to your website. We're going to have a link to her website on the description. Please take a look at her website. You'll see a dramatic set of emotions. At least I felt the dramatic emotions when I saw her artwork. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Any other message before we end?
Just that if you are going through something, please be patient with yourself and try to seek help in any way that you can and take your time with it. It may not happen right away, but please try to go through life saying to yourself that I'm going to live my life trying to do better for myself and better for others.
There's one more thing that I want to discuss with you before we end, and that is what it gives me the impression is you're interjecting yourself into society, which is your Starbucks logo.
Yes.
So I want to talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
Okay, so you created a logo for Starbucks.
Yes.
And you replicated, you put yourself in the artwork.
Yes. It was an experimental, it kind of has to do with this collection a little bit because it has some of the similar colors. going back to the idea of posterizing yourself and putting yourself on a pedestal and praising yourself, I developed a logo, a pop logo piece where I took Starbucks and I took logos, but particularly humanoid forms inside the logos. Like Starbucks, it has the siren, the human mermaid. And I put myself as the siren instead of the typical logo, because I think it's a nice exercise if you are an artistic person, and to take yourself and put yourself like on a poster instead of that person, put yourself there and enjoy the fact that what you look like on a pop logo or a pop advertisement. Take the time out to really give yourself some credit. And
Very creative. It's a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
And the word posterizing, that's a wonderful word.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that describes you, right? That's what you decided to do.
Yes. I think a lot of people need to do it a little bit more if they can. Really take the time to give yourself the credit.
What's the definition to you of that word, posterizing? What does it mean to you?
Posterize to love yourself and to take some self-care. And, some, advertisements aren't just exclusive to a particular type of person. It should be for everybody.
Yeah, and I think it opens up the opportunity to kind of hit back at the self-centered comment that people might say, "Oh, you're being self-centered," all right? But it's not.
No.
You're going into yourself. Do you find people telling you that it's?
Yeah, I've had a couple of people take my artwork the wrong way. They think that I'm just being self-centered and I'm just trying to attract attention, and it's not at all. It's a completely different message that I'm trying to send. I encourage everybody to do it.
I agree.
People don't do it enough.
No, we don't.
People are too afraid to look up their own photographs, look in the mirror. I have a lot of students who are self-conscious, and it's, they don't even, they're scared of a camera.
There's a disconnect between who you are and how you're seen, or maybe how you see yourself.
Yeah, there's not a lot of self-love.
Self-love, that's an excellent word and a good way to end this interview. This is a wonderful set of emotions that you've brought out. I think it's your artwork. I find it very enjoyable. You mentioned people don't like it. Some people are afraid of it. I find it a wonderful expression of emotions. I think we're all joyful. We're all sad. We're all confused. We're all struggling in pain. It's all there, and it's all there. And I think that making it acceptable to society and making it so that I can see it and I can say, I can relate to that, that enriches people's lives.
Yeah, everybody deserves happiness.
Yeah.
Fear shouldn't consume your life. You should really just take the time to explore yourself and give yourself that happiness, because everyone deserves it.
That's why I asked you about 20 years from now, because I get the impression you're on a journey, and you mentioned happiness, and you seem to be heading in that direction.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's been growing steadily.
Yeah.
But it's constantly going up, and I'm definitely in a much better place than I was before. And it's what is giving me the energy and putting me in the position to lift other people up.
Yeah, because you seem to be in a journey, and you seem to have grown through that journey to the point where you're now thinking about helping other people. I'm assuming when you first started, you were struggling just to help yourself.
Yes.
So you really have grown quite a bit, and maybe you got to give yourself credit for that, because you're still very young and you've done a lot in a short period of time. And you're now at the point where you're now trying to help other people, and you're now beginning to use the word happiness and expressing how everybody deserves to be happy. And I'd be very interested to follow this journey and, see what's happening in your life in the next year or 2 years, and see how you are evolving, because it's really admirable, I think, what you've done.
Thank you.
Yeah, and your lack of fear.
I feel that, of course it's a journey, and I, I don't have a crystal ball, but I do see it starting to reach out to more people, and people getting to see it more and discuss it more, just like how I'm with you today.
Yeah.
Versus 5 years ago, not a lot of people maybe looked at the artwork, but now I'm sitting here with you, and I just see it as just going up at a steady pace.
Yeah, and it's also that you have the skill, you have this ability to dig into your emotions, you have this ability to deal with your fears, you have this ability to bring it out, and you have this ability to paint it.
It's just as simple as basic human life. You're born, you crawl, you walk, and then you run.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Everybody has the ability to do it. You just have to trust yourself in it, and you may even need to have the humility to make a mistake, but you will learn from that and keep making yourself stronger.
Well, yeah, a lot of journeys are you take 2 steps forward, 1 step back,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes 2 steps back. And sometimes you realize
And
you
it's
were in a circle.
completely okay.
That's part of the journey.
That's part of it. That's what's going to make you stronger.
Yeah.
You don't have to get it right the first time.
Yeah, and you won't get it right, and even if you get it right, 5 steps down, you're going to get it wrong at some point, and you're going to find yourself in a loop. You're going to find yourself walking backwards. That's fine.
And I say if you make a lot of mistakes trying to achieve that, it's only going to make you smarter. You're going to understand it more.
It's part of the digging. It's part of the digging process, right? You hit a rock, you got to get around it somehow. And eventually you do find more, you learn more about yourself and humankind and society, which is something that you seem to have picked up on, right? How you were being affected by society, right? And I think a very healthy message to send people out there that are not artists is find your own way, which is what you said before, right? Writing could be writing.
Could be writing, could be something as simple as walking, it could be just something as simple as just meditating. It doesn't matter, it's not a contest. It's not who is able to make some spectacular skill that solves all their problems.
Correct. Yeah, there's no one way.
No one's judging.
Yeah.
And don't think anyone's going to judge it. You do it for yourself.
Yeah, meditating, being calm, being peaceful, walking in the woods, right? Talking to someone, writing it down. You mentioned you were Buddhist.
Yes.
So, want to talk a little bit about that? What are your Buddhist beliefs, and how does that drive your artwork or your emotions or your beliefs in life?
So Buddhism, I took favor and I practiced that. A lot of people say that it's a religion. It really is not. It's just a way of thinking, a way of going about life.
Mm-hmm.
It has helped me tremendously because the whole subject is based off of living a happy life. And there's different types of mental exercises, and that's why I took a favor into it, that the whole group is based off of struggles and how that's going to really negatively affect your life, and that there are very simple ways to help you detach from that suffering, and being very forgiving and taking time for yourself and acknowledging your mistakes and sort of that everyone's going to make mistakes, but accept that you are not perfect and just keep trying and just keep looking for that light at the end of the tunnel.
You mentioned mental challenges, and that's important because I think people give up when they try to meditate or try to deal maybe the negative thoughts, and now I can't do it. I'm not good at that. But it takes time, and also the expectations don't have to be so high.
No.
If you can do it, if you can meditate for 1 minute.
No.
Right?
Yeah. It's there is no expectation. There is no limit. Everything in Buddhism is meant to go at your own pace, with finding your happy place in a sense.
Right. And there's no right or wrong, right? There's no right way to meditate. You find what works for you, and you fail at whatever you try, and then you find another way. And you learn that if you have thoughts coming back in, that's okay. You accept
Yes.
them. You don't fight it and say, I give up. I can't calm my mind. You accept it.
Yes. And in Buddhism, we all know that people are born different. Everybody has a different way of doing something. And we encourage everyone to do what is comfortable for them. And we actually acknowledge the fact that you are going to have negative thoughts. And we accept those negative thoughts because we believe that if you reflect upon that negativity, it's going to help bring a positive aspect to your life.
Yes. Yeah, that's very interesting. Very interesting. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you coming. I think it was just wonderful for you to express your emotions, express your art, share your art, and the fact that you're trying to help so many people.
Thank you. That's all I could ever ask for, and that's what I hope to do.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to end it by saying that one of the things that Candice says was about society, changing society. But you can do that in a small way by one of the things that I like to say a lot is finding like-minded people, because that changes your world. It really changes your world when you find like-minded people. There's no point in struggling to change other people that don't want to change or that see things totally in a different way.
Yeah, that's one thing. You can't fix other people.
Right.
They need to, again, it's the first step. They need to acknowledge that they need something that needs to be fixed, and then they can help other people. You should always work on yourself and surround yourself with like-minded people, because if you surround yourself with something that's positive, it can only bring positive aspects to your life.
Yes, and to find those like-minded people, you have to put yourself out there. You have to search. You have to be willing to express who you really are. And those like-minded people will eventually find you as well.
And there may be people who are friends with somebody who is not the best influence for them, and maybe that they're lost. And I just want to say, don't ever abandon that person. Sometimes you just need to wait for that person to discover themselves, and then you can take it from there once they do.
Excellent way to end the video. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this conversation.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're very welcome. And thank you. And let us know your thoughts on everything that Candice brought up. Some very, very interesting emotional issues and perspectives. Thank you very much.
And if you ever want to drop me a question, you're more than welcome to message me on Instagram, or I'll also put up a link to my email address if you have any questions about art or the statements that I'm trying to make.
Yes, and we'll put her Instagram account on the video and your website as well.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Bye.